Hey, it's KA, and I hope you are having a great day. How are you doing today? You look good. You look fit. You been working out? I can tell. Now, you may be asking yourself, KA, what are you wearing? And I am wearing what some may call costume. Why am I wearing a costume, you ask? Because I read the most haunting book I think I've ever read and ever will read, Morning Glory Milking Farm. And today we're going to talk about it. Why am I reading this book, you may ask? Well, because one of my wonderful Twitch mods, twitch.tv/itsKA, by the way, recommended this to me after I read Pounded by Produce and said, this should be my next read. And I said, you know what, mod? I trust in you, so I will read it. And boy, was that a decision. Was that a decision? It was indeed. So that being said, let's get into it, because I didn't read this bad boy for nothing. So my very first thoughts about this book were on the cover. First of all, the cover, and secondly, a monster bait romance. As soon as I saw that, I was like, we're in for a time. Also, before we get into the book, I will be making fun of it. I will be making fun of the type of people that read this kind of book. And if you are one of those people, I'm not judging you. I am also a degenerate, just in different ways. So this is all in good fun, no hard feelings. Keep reading your monster smut. I am here for you, kings and queen. Now, let's get into it. So the book opens up and our main character's name is Violet. She is a millennial. I don't know why the book needs to state that so many times, but it makes it very clear that she is a millennial and she's down on her luck and she is out there looking for any job that will help pay off some of her debt. Also, the words in this book are huge, which makes me think that old ladies are getting down to Minotaur smut, so good for you, old ladies. Our girl Violet ends up applying to work at a milking farm for Minotaurs, and I don't know if you know this, but Minotaurs are male and they do not have teats, not in the way that I do. So what she is milking is a little more below the belt, if you catch my drift. The reason why these milking farms exist in the first place is because there are properties in the crew of the sea. Can I say semen? Can I say semen on YouTube? Yes, okay, cool. The Minotaur's semen has some sort of special protein in it that goes into little blue pills, Viagra, for human men. And so Minotaur come, can I say come? Can I say come on YouTube? Yes, you can. Okay. Okay, so the Minotaur cum goes into Viagra, and that's why it's a hot commodity for humans, and that's why these milking farms exist. Are you following me? Are you following me? I'm already lost, and I've been here for 10 minutes. Now that that's out of the way, Violet applies for this job, and she's going through the rounds of interviews. She mentions how in this universe, there are, monsters, minotaurs, goblins, tieflings, which is a D&D exclusive, so someone plays D&D. Looking at you, author. Elves, orcs, you name it, all the fantasy races exist in this universe, and they especially live in this one little town. Actually gets the job and is watching the training video, and in the training video, there's this like little fox lady. She's just going to town. She's milking them things. Okay, she's milking them things. But anyway, by the end of the first chapter, Violet has watched this training video a bunch of times for research purposes. And she decides she wants to take the job. Also, side note, I put in a little quip here that says the word is said 6 times in the first chapter. So if that is any indication of what we're about to get into, it's gonna be a wild ride. On Violet's very first day, she gets training, and it's actually a pretty professional environment. Everything's very clean, very sterile. She's on this bottom floor with these nozzles and collection units and all of this stuff, and she is shadowing someone else for the day. At the very end of the day, however, it is her job to do her very first milking, and that's where we run across our main Minotaur man. He actually doesn't have a name until page 200, and so he will be Minotaur man until he gets a name. What bothers me the most about the description of the love interest is look at this cover. Look at this. You see this orange, redheaded Minotaur man, no jewelry here, very much black horns. This is what he looks like, right? Tell me why, when they describe him in the book, it's nothing like this. Let me read the descriptor for you. I even wrote a note. Why doesn't he look like the cover? This is how they describe him. Violet wasn't sure what she'd been hoping for as she entered the room, but her stomach sank at the sight of the broad, well-muscled back encased in a crisp white dress shirt. By the way, the Minotaurs do wear clothes. They are businessmen. Very professional. The Minotaur was already stepping out of his well-tailored pants and carefully placing them over the chair back, the glint of his heavy watch face catching the light, the clear markings of one of those clock watchers. A clock watcher is a term they use in the book for a Minotaur that's watching the clock because he's on break. He's gotta pump and dump and get out of that. And so our main Minotaur guy is a clock watcher. Maybe he'll be different, she thought, staring up at the Minotaur dumbly from the lower level. The short, silky, coarse hide that covered his body was the same color as the shaggy, pecan brown hair that fell messily into his face, with a huge, roan-colored horns pushing through it like weeds. Stretching outwardly to the sky, she was already practically erect, she saw at once. Pecan brown hair. That is a ginger... Don't even get me started. That's a ginger man. He's ginger. Pecan brown hair. We carry on. So she begins her milking process of this pecan brown hair Minotaur. It's gonna take me a minute to get over that. Forgive me. So she begins milking him, right? And in this book, she goes into very, very, very great detail about what his member looks like. And during this description, she had this little gem to say about it. Are you ready? One of the veins snaking up from the base was the same width as one of her fingers. Hello? Girl, I don't know why I needed to know that, but because I know it, you now know it. She then, after she finishes describing what his member entails, goes into very, very intricate detail about what she does to receive her bottle of milk. They do put it in milk bottles. They are this big. This is about 24 ounces worth of milk. This is how much the Minotaurs come. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is what she has to say about her technique during the first meeting. The side of her pinky slid beneath the edge of his foreskin as she worked down the shaft, circling around his head from within the protective layer of skin to ensure he was adequately slick. Do men like that? Let me know in the... Actually, comment right now. If you've made it... I'm sorry about this video, by the way. If you've made it this far into the video, and if you have... Can I say foreskin? Would you like for a lady to put a finger in your protective barrier? Those that are uncut. Is that something? Have I been doing it wrong? Anyway, I cannot linger on that. The Minotaur loved this. Instantly exploded right into his 24-ounce milk bottle, just like this. They don't come directly into the bottle. There's this like device that when they get close that the milker puts on, and it has tubes, and then it leads into the bottle. Anyway, filled this bad baby to the brim. So anyway, after work, Violet just cannot get this Minotaur man out of her head. She rushes home, takes off her pants, pulls up some adult videos about Minotaurs and humans, and watches that and pleases herself. She even says she'd had a few well-endowed partners over the years, but she was hardly a size queen and couldn't imagine what it would feel like to be that stuff. Like a turkey on Thanksgiving. That's what she's trying to be. And honestly, good for her. She knows what she's about, so I applaud it. I'm backtracking so much. I'm sorry. This is what I get for not making a script. I have a moment of silence. Because this is chapter 3. I've described up to chapter 3, and she's already fingering under a man. My apologies, not a man. A Minotaur's foreskin. Chapter 3, baby. We have a long road ahead of us. Get yourself some snacks. Fold some clothes. Stay a while. Okay, so after she goes home and fantasizes about this Minotaur and being stuffed by him, a week passes without seeing him. He actually comes in on Fridays, so we have a little time jump to next Friday where she does see him again, and this time he specifically requests to see her. So that finger thing, they liked it. Can I also mention the way that they make the Minotaurs and the other creatures so human? I find a little weird. I don't know, something about it is weird, because this is how she describes him the next time she sees him. He was a bit slimmer than many of the other bulls who came through the milking room, and the lack of excess bulk made his sculpted biceps stand out beneath the material of his shirt, the tumble of pecan-colored hair over his forehead giving him a surprisingly boyish appearance. She'd never dated a non-human before, but it was impossible to deny that this Minotaur was exceedingly attractive. Something about them wearing clothes and the muscles is just like, they're losing me, but live your truth, queens. You like what you like, and I'm not mad at you for it, but I will judge with love. Something about this book that I've noticed outside of the very horny nature of everything is that there are so many errors in this book. So many errors. For example, this right here, I don't know if you can see it. This right here, you see that? You see that? Well, even if you can't, that is a sentence that starts with a comma. A sentence that starts with a comma. And this is a very popular book. This would take one round of proofreading to stop that. So there are many errors in this book, but I was looking it up on Reddit. People love it. And honestly, I like it too. It's like fun. It's a fun, fine book. I had a good time because it's like sweet and cute, but it's also incredibly raunchy. And I don't know. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. Let's keep going. This time when she sees him the next week after he specifically requested her, she is just wet at the sight of him, which is like very unprofessional. I would not want because she's sort of like a nurse in this milking universe. She's sort of like a nurse. I would not want my nurse with soupy panties at the side of me. But I don't know. No, I wouldn't. That's weird. But she's dripping at the sight of him, saying, quote, Violet didn't know what it was about him. The rigid set of his shoulders or the way his voice reminded her of a thunderclap, deep and matter of fact, or maybe a combination of the two, encased in his well-tailored business attire. But a shiver moved up her back as her stomach flipped and her legs nearly turned into liquid, heated by the fire he ignited between her thighs. She's met this man 2 times. Soupy panties. I'm getting so distracted. We gotta keep going. We're gonna be here all day. Jesus. Oh, God. After she milks him and her panties are turned into the ocean, she then kind of draws a line with herself saying that, and why are you trying to flirt with him? It's one thing to get off thinking about his junk, but you don't need to wind up with a crush. That's completely unprofessional. And I do agree, that is very unprofessional. It was already unprofessional to be strumming your guitar to the thought of his junk at work. So we sprinted past the line of professionalism a while ago. 3 chapters ago, actually. And this is chapter 4. Anyway, she draws a line. The point being, she draws a line and she's like, I can't have a crush on this man. That's unprofessional. So at least a line was drawn somewhere. After this, a couple days passes and Violet gets her first paycheck, and so she decides to take a look around this monster town she's been working in. And I actually really do like the world. They describe like harpies and beautiful deer women, and the way that the world is written is very picturesque and lovely outside of the amount of times the word is said. The world is lovely. So I do like that. I told you, I'll be judging, but I kind of dig the book when this isn't happening. She explores this world. She goes to this coffee place that has really nasty coffee and decides to throw it out. But next time she sees Minotaur Man, he recommends a new place called Black Sheep Beanery. And she does end up going eventually and finding coffee that she loves. And while she's there, she meets a vampire girl named Gilly. And this is her first friend in the town. At first, I really didn't think that this was relevant, but Gilly does come up quite a few other times in the book, so I'm mentioning it now so that way we don't get any more lost in the plot than we already are. The next day, while at work, she overhears another Minotaur talking about the significance of a ring in their nose. Picture shown here. You know that these rings that bulls have in their nose? This is also a thing in the book, and having a ring in your nose means you're married. Violet finds this out, and she's a little shaken because she has a crush on our Minotaur man, and he does have a ring in his nose, and so she's like, oh damn, I've got a crush on someone that's married. Woe is me. She's a little upsetty by that. The next time she sees him though, she does want to confirm that that's what the ring is for him, and so she asks, she's like, hey, what does the ring in your nose mean? And he says, historically, it's a symbol of ownership, being bound to another. The modern usage is almost always to signify being bound to another in marriage. So that basically just confirmed all of Violet's fears. Also, I'm gonna bring up the cover again because it genuinely upsets me. Why does he not have it in the cover? Do you see one? Do you see one? Because I don't. If he has a ring and he's had it this entire time in his nose, why is it not on the cover? I digress. We carry on. So the next day, she goes back to this coffee shop because apparently they do have amazing coffee, and she's going to have lunch with Gilly, her vampire friend. And while she's there, she runs into her mystery Minotaur man, okay? And when he's ordering his coffee, they're actually in line together and they have this cute little banter back and forth, and he pays for her coffee and it's very flirty and it's actually very cute and very sweet. But then the barista starts talking to him. We learn his name is Rourke, R-O-U-R-K-E, Rourke. How do I pronounce that? Rourke? We learn his name is Rourke. So the barista starts talking about some lady named L'Oreal, and Violet starts getting jealous, and so when he turns to ask her for a coffee date, she says she's actually on a lunch date right now and she has to leave, creating this kind of tension between them because now she assumes that Rourke is married to this L'Oreal, and he assumes that she's on a date right now, and so, oh my god, we're both unavailable, whatever will we do? After this exchange, she goes to sit down with Gilly, and Gilly talks about how it's pretty uncommon to see humans with monster partners. However, when you do you see humans with monster partners, you know that they're secretly freaky nasty because monsters have something that all humans don't. And when Violet asks for an example, Gilly says, and I quote, "And then you find out the Naga who sold you insurance last week has 2 cocks. And obviously you're curious about that as well. So then you ride one of those cocks just to see what it's like, of course. And then you take a turn to the other, and then he slips them both in, and there's no human with one boring little cock who will ever be good enough again after that. Not now that you've been DP'd by a sexy snake man whose name you can't even say." Why are we talking about being DP'd by snake men? DP means, I don't want to look that up. You look that up if you don't know. If you don't know, you're too young. Don't finish this video, except do. And apparently the lizard men also have 2 cocks. So if this is painting you a picture of what the world looks like, everyone's got either crazy, giant, honking, huge, swinging balls and just a cock that weighs 20 pounds, or they've got 2 of them. Pick your poison. Honestly, I get why the ladies read that. Unrealistic expectations for men, am I right? After this, in chapter 11, we get a time jump. Violet randomly took 2 weeks off, and we find out it's because someone in her family that she's not that close to has died. And so she went home to think about her feelings for this Minotaur man, Rorik, and also so she can mourn her, like, aunt or whatever. I don't know. It's so unimportant to the story, but it's used as a catalyst to kind of push these two together. So she takes 2 weeks off, and now this is her first day back. When she sees Rorik for the first time, she immediately notices that he took the ring out of his nose. This is page 129 out of about 230 pages. So halfway through the book, he's taken out the ring. I can maybe forgive that it's not on the cover, but I feel strongly about it. So I'm not going to, but I could, I just won't. So he's got this ring out. He talks about how he missed her essentially because in her absence, someone that Rorik kindly refers to as Stiff Grip Sally was the one who was milking him, and he said he was chafed after that, and so he really missed Violet's particular touch. She gets to the milking, which I will spare you guys of unless you don't want me to. I will tell you a little bit. I'll tell you a little bit about it just because it's insane. It's insane. Following the pulse of his balls as his thrusts began to weaken, she found and pressed her thumb against the visibly throbbing point behind his sac, massaging into his prostate. Now, I was gonna leave this part out. However, I'm no scientist. I'm no biology major. I'm on YouTube dressed like a minotaur. I have no credentials to say this is otherwise, but I'm pretty sure the prostate is not in the back of the ball sack. If I know anatomy at all, I'm pretty sure the prostate is in the So what do you mean the visibly throbbing point behind the sac massaging into his prostate? That's just wrong. That's just incorrect. And I don't know why I'm so upset about it because this is the fantasy world and she is jorking a minotaur right now. But something about that upsets me greatly. Anyway, Rorik really liked this. He really liked this. So much so that when he came into his bottle, this big, for reference, remember this, this is what it said. A click and a whir from the collection unit made her jump, and she turned sharply, just in time to see the second bottle rotating into place. A second bottle? She'd never had a reason to use both of the label stickers that came affixed to the files, but there was a first time for everything, she thought ruefully. Basically, what she's saying here is that not only did he fill up 1 milk bottle, not only did she fill up 1 of these, he filled up 2. Girl! I don't even know what to say about that. 2? Okay, you like what you like. Anyway, I'm actually speechless. I've already read this book. I finished it last week sometime, and just recounting what happened in it is making me speechless again. Safe to say she drained the life out of that man. He was exhausted, slumped over the bench. The milking bench is kind of like, so the milker's on the lower floor, and there's a bench, and the Minotaur gets and then sits on it and then puts his through a hole. But then the Minotaur's member is hanging over their head and then they're like this. That's quite the visual, but you get it. So he's slumped over the bench and he's like, where were you? And she explains that there was a death in the family, bringing them just a little closer because they realized how much they missed one another. It's at this point of the book where suddenly, randomly, out of nowhere, she starts mentioning being a millennial and a feminist, which is so confusing because what page is this? 145 out of 230, so more than halfway through the book, and suddenly you're like, I'm a millennial, which something about that is very cringe, but she says, I'm a millennial. Being anxious and guilty is my birthright, I guess. right? Which I guess, given the size of the words in this book, I guess it is made for millennials and old people. Shout out to my elderly. But something about that is so weird. Why are, like, this is a fantasy world. Mentioning being millennial is taking me out of the fantasy. I'm rambling. Let me carry on. After this is when they actually confess that they missed each other, saying, I missed you, you know, when you were gone. And she said, I miss you too. Which honestly is kind of sweet. See what I mean? Like, it's kind of sweet in the world is very romantic, and the fact that these, I'm a girl. I'm just a girl at the end of the day. I love love. I love romance. I read a lot of romance. I'm into it, okay? So like when like, you know, it's cute. It's just that I'm pretty sure this book says the word at least 300 times. So it's the juxtaposition that throws me off. I forgot to mention that before she went missing for 2 weeks, they did have a conversation about who L'Oreal is, and that's his like elf neighbor, and she has a boyfriend. And Violet clarifies that her lunch date was with her female friend Gilly, and so they're like, oh, ha ha ha, misunderstandings. And now they're actually about to go on their very first date. They have a lovely time, they go to dinner, and I'm actually really surprised that nothing NSFW happens. At this point, the shocking NSFW stuff starts to disappear a little bit, and it just turns into kind of like an old-fashioned romance. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of sipping this tea a little bit. And they go and they have a lovely time. But at the end of their date, as most people do, these two have a kiss. And this is how she described it. His mouth was wider than those belonging to any of her previous partners, wide enough to engulf hers completely. And the thought of kissing a cow is so weird to me. The fact that he's just like, it's something. At what point does this book go from like, ooh, sexy monster man to animal lover? Because I feel like we're treading the line when she mentions that. Just because he's got a this is what they look like. They're cowmen. I don't know. That kind of like it took me out of it. I was like, weird. I digress. Let's carry on. So after their very first date, they decide to go on another date where they get dinner again, and Rourke buys L'Oreal a drink, but Violet doesn't know it's L'Oreal at the time, and so she's like, oh my god, did you just buy a drink for another woman in front of me? And he was like, wait. And they have a very cute introduction with L'Oreal. She's a super likable little elf lady, very cute, very sweet. I don't know why I'm even really mentioning this, but she comes up later in the book, so I'll just mention it now. So yeah, they do that, they have their introductions, things are good. And when it comes time to pay after the date, this is where she started like randomly being a feminist, saying, what kind of feminist are you? And then on the very next page saying she was a good feminist, she told herself, and she definitely couldn't be bought. And it's like, a man's just paying for a date for you. Like, I don't think accepting someone else paying for your, I'm not trying to get like political, you know what I mean? But like, it was so weird because he's paid up for a date before, he paid for a coffee before, he's paid for things for her before, and she was like, yeah, cool. And now all of a sudden she was like,
I'm a feminist and I can't be bought. I can't and I shan't.
And it just seems really out of left field. It's like the author was like, oh yeah, we should make her a feminist. You know what I mean? I carry on. See, look, she's on Tuesday, like just right back to back. And I even said at the bottom, she hasn't mentioned being a feminist this whole time, and suddenly she mentions it twice. So weird. Anyway, but of course he's like, I am treating you, I'm gonna pay. There's a very obvious money difference between the two. Rorik is a very wealthy man, because they always are in these romance books. The occupation for men in romance books are prince, pirate, or wealthy man of some sort. Those are your three options, pick one, and he is the wealthy man. So anyway, he's like, I'm treating you, this is what I want to do, please allow me to do this. And she's like, okay, all is good. And then after this, we get like kind of a time hop. They go on a bunch of different dates, and he's sort of made no move on her, and she's getting antsy because she wants him bad. She even bought herself a nice, thick, girthy item to love herself with, if you catch my drift, to kind of ease that ache. However, the ache is not being eased, and she wants this man bad, or she wants this Minotaur bad. Gilly the vampire tells her before one of her dates that, hey, just send him nudes, like that'll get the point across. And she's like, no, I'm a lady, I'm not gonna do that. And so she doesn't, but she's like, you know what, on this next date, I'm not gonna wear panties. And that seemed to do the trick, because at dinner in public, he kind of gave her the old two-step between her thighs, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? They're like sitting at a table next to each other, all cuddled up. He gives her the old twiddle two-step in public, which honestly, I don't hate that. I didn't hate that. I didn't hate it though. I didn't hate it. So I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. After they nearly avoid getting arrested, he walks her back to her place, and he is invited up, and he is comically large in her very small apartment. She has a very small human-sized apartment, and this man is, I feel like it's the cover. I hate the cover. I feel like the cover isn't a decent ratio of what they look like, because the way they describe him, he's more than double her size in every way. I mean, he's got a cock vein the size of a finger. You know what I mean? So he's more than double her size. They go up to her apartment. The man can barely turn around. He's so giant in there, and feasts upon her. Yes, but he remains dressed, saying that we can't do anything in here. It's too small, it's too cramped. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna pack a bag on Friday, and then you're gonna come to my place, and we're gonna get down and dirty. So she agrees, and that's what they plan on doing. So Friday rolls around. She's very excited. She's dressed up in cute date clothes after work. Packs a bag. She goes to his place, and he is just at the door in a towel. He's like, "You're wearing too much clothes. We're gonna get down to business." And that's what they do. They get down to business. But can I tell you a secret between you and me? This whole book, what page is this? 197. So we've got 30 pages left. This whole book has been leading to these two boning, and dare I say, the boning was uneventful. It was very, very vanilla, very mid. I would imagine there would be more of a struggle, considering something this big was going inside of something this big, but they seem to figure it out real easy. So the boning was a little mid, and that's okay. Everything up until now has been leading up to that. Genuinely, I read 50 pages of them going on dates and her yearning for him and stretching herself out. Oh, I don't like that I said that, but maybe that's why it wasn't a problem. Either way, because of the way it was described, I almost expected a flood of sorts, but that didn't happen either. So I was just like, you're telling me the man produces this much and it wasn't all right? Okay, it was kind of mid. Anyway, I don't know if you've noticed, but we actually have not spent that much time at the farm. After the farm was just a plot device to get her to know this man so that way they can end up together, and that's fine, but I feel like the descriptions of what happened at the farm was crazier than the descriptions of these two in bed. I don't know. So all that was good and dandy. They do the deed, they spend the night, and what she has to say about it is really sweet up until the very last sentence. Here, let me read it for you. Saturday mornings were for lazing, sleeping off the previous night's physical exertions before embarking on a weekend adventures, and this nestled against his warm skin, with a leg over his thickly muscled thigh and his heavy cock pressed against her front. His strong arm wrapped around her back had become her favorite place to be. It's like, wow, that was really romantic and lovely. Why? I get it. I mean, I get it, but I feel like it wasn't necessary, you know? But anyway, time passes. They're hooking up. She describes how he's too big to like, properly, which is crazy because if he won't fit in here, how is he fit? I mean, I get it. Look, I'm a lady. I understand that things stretch and stuff, but like, it sounds like you should be ripping the lady in half, but that's none of my business. None of my business. Anyway, months pass and they are officially dating. They're boyfriend and girlfriend, and it's very sweet and it's very cute. And you know, she's like, I think I want to get a new job. I'll still work at the farm part-time on Fridays so that way no one else milks my bull. But I want a new job, and then I'm gonna get an apartment here in the city because I'm a feminist and I don't want to depend on him, so I'm not gonna live with him. And they're kind of planning for the future a little bit, which is fine and good. Good for you, queen. You don't need to rely on a man, but I feel like it wouldn't have affected the book even if they did move in together, you know. But anyway, and then after, you know, months of boning and all that good stuff, she talks about the prostate again. And it is in the ass. Let me tell you what I found. It was a juggling act, keeping her mouth around his cock and milking his balls with one hand while using the other to work his two fingers into his ass. The tight ring of muscles sucking her in as she pumped against him, seeking his sweet spot. But it never failed to make him erupt like a geyser. So she knows it's in the ass. Why did they say it was in the ball sack before? Why? Oh my god. Anyway, so they've been dating for a few months. Life is good. Oh my god, she's friends with L'Oreal and his big old orc boyfriend. They are having the time of their life. They're so in love. Oh my god. Except they haven't confessed their love to one another, which I thought was interesting. But, you know, they get into the shower. They have a little saucy time in the shower. And this is what she has to say about that. You know, they're having a good time, going at it and all that. I don't know what this is. They're having a good time. And he, excretes. What an ugly word, excrete. His seed. Ooh, ugly combination of words. He excretes his seed inside of her. And, you know, it's like pouring out like milky rain, which is what I would have thought would have happened the first time did the tango for two. But it's happening now. So whatever. It's happening now. You know, it's falling like rain out of her. And then she says, fuck, it's going to clog the drain. Excuse me? Ma'am, what do you mean it's going to clog the drain? What is it made out of? Jello? What kind of viscous substance would it have to be? How thick? It's pudding. It's pudding. It's vanilla pudding. What do you mean it's gonna clog the drain? I can't even, and apparently this is a problem so much so that there's this like protein like capsule that he keeps in the shower in order to dissolve it so it can go down the drain. This is what he says. Fuck, it's going to clog the drain, she squealed, tightening her arms around him when he reached, pulling out one of the pods from the net around the shower head and ripping it open, sprinkling the enzyme to the deluge below. After a moment, it began to sizzle, breaking down the protein that would absolutely clog the drain, the protein for which he practically earned a second income. How? I'm sorry, I'm hung up on this. How thick, viscous. It's a solid at that point. It's a solid. A lol squid, if you will. Clogging the drain. So yeah, he's got seed that clogs the drain, and basically she gets the job and all is happy, and then the book ends. The book ends, and they never confess their love to one another, which I think is so weird that they never confess their love to each other, because she thinks to herself, she's like,
I definitely love him.
but she doesn't tell him. However, at the end of the book, it's revealed that there's another one. Blue Ribbon Romance by C.M. Nascosta. So I imagine that's where they confess their love and like have their happy ever after. I don't know. But yeah, the book ends. That's how the book ends. He clogs the drain and the book ends, basically. That took me like a month to read, because while it was like cute and lovely in some areas, a lot of it was just degeneracy. And I skipped a lot of it for your cute little ears, but yeah, it was something. What would I rate the book out of 10? As a girl, I mean, some of it wasn't bad, like the scene in the restaurant, not mad at it. So out of 10 being the best book I ever read, I don't know. Okay. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10 on the book scale, and I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 10 on the soupy panty scale. It wasn't doing it for my panties, but that's okay, because it does it for somebody's, and that's all that matters. I went to the Reddit after I read it just to see how people liked it, and oh my god, people love it. People love this book.
They were like, oh my god, the characters had so much depth.
And I was like, the only deep thing in this book was Violet's hole, but they did not have depth, but they loved it. So honestly, good for you, CM Nascosta. Good for you. Wasn't my type of book, and you know, like I said earlier, we're just poking fun. We're poking fun, nothing personal. You like what you like, I don't fucking care. Strum your guitar to whatever makes you happy, as long as it's not illegal. Yeah, that was the book. If you have anything else unhinged that you would like me to read, I will read it. So leave your recommendations down in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. This is so much fun, and I love doing this. I don't know why it keeps taking me 2 months to come out with a video. Oh, also, did you like this better than like previous videos? Previous videos were very scripted, and it took me longer to, you know, produce those because I had to come out with the script. This one was definitely more organic. I was just saying stuff as it came to mind, and it feels more personal, or it feels more personable to me. But how do you feel? Do you like this way, or do you like it better the old way? Let me know down in the comments, please. I'm gonna go make some spaghetti. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Where should I review next? I do anime, I do crazy books, I do it all. And until then, I'll see you next time. Bye.